guys, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tenacious V's podcast. Each week, I grab some drinks and some friends, and we sit around and discuss an incredible woman from history or mythology. This week, we are doing a little bit of a Greek theme, and we're discussing Medusa as well as the Sirens, both fascinating mythological creatures from Greece, and they just have crazy backstories, all sorts of gods and goddesses intertwined, and lots of Greek excitement, as it were. I was a little under the weather while filming this episode, so I might sound a little bit boring and kind of not as into it as normal, so I apologize for that. Also, this episode does have a trigger warning for sexual assault. We really hope that you just take the time to be in the correct headspace to listen to this, or just skip this episode and choose another one. But either way, have a great day. Gassa Svili, and welcome back to another episode of Tenacious V's podcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about two separate things. Do you want both of the names right now?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about Sirens and Medusa.
Ooh. Very cool.
Yeah, so Greek thing tonight going on. What do you guys know about these women?
Well, sirens are like these creatures that they live on like islands like with dangerous rocks and use their siren song to lure in sailors to their deaths. Yep. Crash into these rocks near their islands, but their songs are so like what would that be? Just
enchanting.
Enchanting? Yeah, that's perfect.
I know that Medusa was a gorgon. I know that she was cursed. And I know that both of those creatures are both monsters in the Dungeons and Dragons monster manual. Except they don't call like creatures like Medusa gorgons. Medusa is a name for a monster that has the same. Is basically if Medusa was a creature instead of an individual who was cursed. In Dungeons and Dragons, the Medusa is a monster based off of Medusa, the cursed woman.
Turning to stone and everything.
And all the turn to stone and all that. And the Gorgon is actually a giant metal bowl in Dungeons and Dragons.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I know that.
How good of a monster is Medusa in Dungeons and Dragons?
She's a pretty tough.
Can you play as her, or do you encounter her?
Depending on your dungeon master, if they want to allow you to play a Gorgon race or play as the
individual
Medusa, but that's at the dungeon master's discretion. But they're all monsters have like a creature rating from like 1 to 30, or even like a quarter of a point to 30. And I think that Medusas or Gorgons are like, I think they're about like a creature rating 7 to 9 or something like that.
Medusas are?
Uh-huh.
And then what about the Gorgons, the bulls?
Okay, so I think those are around like a 10 or 11. And then I think Sirens are at like a 6 to 7, something like that.
Wow, Sirens are below Medusa, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
I could be wrong about this. It's just based off of my memory of the monster manual, but I'm pretty sure.
I guess from the D&D standpoint that makes more sense, but I think from the story standpoint that doesn't make sense.
I don't know. Why do you say that?
Because Medusa doesn't want to cause damage, and Sirens are bloodthirsty. So you'd think they'd score higher as a monster when they are the ones seeking out doing the damage, whereas people just wanted to prove that they were badass, so they tried to fight Medusa. She just wanted to chill.
But the power's based off of how effective a party of four, an average of four adventurers would be able to fight that monster and defeat it.
Yeah, I mean, Medusa is very.
It doesn't have to do with whether or not she wants to. It's whether it's the success rate.
Okay.
Is what causes the ranking.
Yeah,
All right.
her capabilities were intense. I mean, like even Perseus, who slayed her, had to put up a pretty cunning fight.
Definitely. So that's the D&D side of them.
Forgive me if I'm bringing it up again. It might happen.
No, I love it. What do you know?
About Medusa? Slain by Perseus. Let's start there, but yeah, she was cursed.
Sure.
Slain by Perseus.
It's a priestess of, who was it? I think it was...
Aphrodite?
No. Athena, the god of wisdom.
Okay.
I think. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, she was a priestess of Athena. I know that.
Cursed. What? I don't know why she was cursed. I don't know what.
So do you guys want to talk about Medusa first?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Okay. So, Medusa. There are actually a lot of different origin stories for Medusa, and most of them say she was the daughter of Phorcys and Ceto, and one of the three Gorgon sisters. She was unique because she was beautiful and mortal, and her hair was especially lovely. So her other sisters were like monsters from birth, and they were immortal. They were gods.
Do we know if they have the same Gorgon like attributes that Medusa had? Was she had that curse put on her? Like, did her sister? Do we know if snake hair or
stone eyes?
Yeah,
from stone.
No,
or like
that was part of the curse specifically.
Oh, okay.
Did she have like when she was cursed to have like a snake torso? Was that a thing?
There's multiple different depictions of her after her curse.
But her sisters weren't necessarily the exact same. They might have been just different types of monsters.
Yeah, I think they were just like monsters. I don't actually know. I focused on Medusa and her very sad, tragic story. So one day Medusa was hanging out in the temple because, she was the priestess of Athena, like Will said. And so she was really dedicated and had like started learning this as a child and grown up doing it and all of that. And then part of being the priestess was you had to be a virgin for your whole life. And Poseidon was like super lusting after Medusa because like she was super beautiful, like I said.
And that's what Poseidon does.
And gorgeous hair, yeah. He's trying to get some. And then one day, he's finally just, this day, he's had enough. And so he just goes into the temple where she is, and he ends up actually raping Medusa.
Horrible.
Yeah.
So she's
very
no longer
god.
She's no longer a virgin. And the gods can't punish each other. So Athena punishes Medusa instead. So she's like hurting his thing, because since he like claimed her as his own.
Thing.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It is, but that's what it was.
Somebody had to be punished for the slight against Athena, and because it couldn't be directed at Poseidon, it went towards Medusa.
Yeah.
She really got the ass end of that stick.
She really did. Yeah, so that's why she was cursed.
Well, that's fucked up. All right.
So at that point, she's just turned into this monster by Athena.
Yes. So then Athena turns her into this monster, and she gets like banished because of this curse, basically. So she goes and like lives in this. She usually like, lives in a cave thing, but it's pretty cool. It's her house.
A little fortress of solitude.
Yeah, she just wants to like hang out there. But everyone's like, ah, shit, there's this monster. She's a monster. We gotta kill her. Like, she fucked up. Athena's mad at her. Clearly, she's a bad guy. So, all sorts of people are just like going to her house and just trying to attack her.
I like that you said house and not later.
Yeah.
Her home. So
Her home.
people would go invade
People
her
are
home.
invading her home and attacking her. And that's just already a dick move, you know. But now she has venomous snakes for hair, and her eyes turn people to stone. So people weren't very successful. And now she just has a whole bunch of statues of people she doesn't really give a fuck about.
No, in a lot of depictions I'm thinking of, she was depicted as like this master archer who was like who would kill people who would invade her home with like bow and arrow and things like that.
I've actually seen that too. I know what you're talking about.
More often than not, and once again going to D&D, there's skilled archers in the Clash of the Titans depictions, those movies.
Yeah.
She's always depicted as like a sharpshooting archer. And I don't know. It's just something came to mind when you mentioned the poisonous snakes for hair.
Definitely.
And
Another thing that makes her just deadly.
petrification.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, like just this other like that's something else I think of when you brought up those kind of weapons she has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her tactics. At this point, people are just coming and attacking her left and right. And then she's also pregnant at this point from Poseidon. So I just don't really know how it works in Greek. Like, because it seems like she was Medusa for a long time, you know, but then I guess not really. I don't know. Anyways.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so she was pregnant.
Yeah.
But
Never
in
hear
her,
about the kid.
Yeah, in the mythology, she's you don't know her then.
You do hear about the kid.
Oh, I don't know about this kid, but alright.
So, like you said, Perseus gets sent on a mission from Zeus, which like this whole thing is so fucked up because like they're all treating this like she's like this monster, like a dragon terrorizing the town that must be slain.
But she's just hanging out.
But she's just a lady who got cursed because she got raped, hanging out at her house, and people are attacking her.
It was my understanding though that Perseus had to slay her because he needed to use her ability to petrify things. Like it was just kind of a means to an end.
The way I kind of interpreted the stories was that he was kind of an ass and wanted it to show off.
I don't think so.
And Zeus was like, "Yeah, she's a monster. Let's make it a quest."
From my understanding, I thought that it was like some sort of like divine mission, like that he was, I guess, like born to go and slay a certain monster. Didn't he use Medusa to destroy a titan or something?
The Kraken, but he didn't. He ends up doing that because Poseidon's pissed off at him, and so he uses her head to defeat the Kraken. But he also turns Atlas, the Titan, to stone. But he does that in more of a nice way. He does it to end his suffering. His Titan supports the world on his shoulders. Atlas, Atlas. But he, that was his kind of curse and just his duty. And Perseus does this, like, goes to meet with him and turns him to stone to end his eternal suffering.
My understanding about his mission to slay Medusa was that it was a means to an end.
It was a means to an end.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
Medusa petrify stuff.
Happened to be
This one need your head.
Yeah.
So there's actually another interpretation because sometimes it is written that you're right, and he was nice. He was being nice to Atlas, and he was like, "I'm gonna cut off your head to save you, or I'm gonna petrify you to save you." Yeah. But sometimes it was written that he was like flying past Atlas one day, and Atlas tried to fight him, so he just
Makes no sense. How's this man gonna fight?
I was
He's
gonna
holding
say,
the
Alice
world.
is a fucking badass. He's like holding the world with one hand and swinging out.
Yeah, what?
See, my interpretation.
I don't understand that at all. Like, he's just flying through the cosmos to. This guy's just like, you know what? I'm gonna fight you because you got Hermes shoes. Like, that makes no sense.
I don't know.
How was he gonna fight? Was he gonna kick him?
I don't know. It's kind of
That's
cool.
what I was
Like,
thinking.
man, it's
But
kinda
I think-
cool, like lifting him with one.
Yeah.
Like swinging the world at Perseus.
Just like slap him out of the sky.
It's
Crush him
ridiculous.
with the earth.
Well, but I when I read that, I kind of thought that it was Atlas like, oh hey, he can turn me to stone. Hey buddy, fuck you, you know, like taunting him,
Like
trying to make him turn him to
suicide by
stone.
cop.
Yeah, I get that kind of. Yeah, it's exactly like that. But that's
I mean,
Still seems
I
ridiculous.
don't know another way to phrase that. But
Perseus
yeah,
was,
like kind of provoked the fucking attack.
Perseus was a pretty solid dude. I don't get that. As far as like Greek heroes go, like he was pretty on point. Like kind of upset about all the dumb shit he had to go do.
The reluctant hero, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know why he would ever that would need to be necessary. I'm pretty sure they had a conversation about it.
Well, do you guys know what he got to go on his quest?
Hermes shoes.
And
Something from
Athena's
Athena.
shield or helmet.
a shield from Athena. Yes,
Shield.
it was a bronze reflective shield, and
That's how he was able to see Medusa.
Seas and her
Fire.
sandals.
very Harry Potter once again. Super Hermione Granger.
Why you say stuff like that? Was it like some kind of time stone thing?
Didn't you get like a helmet too from somebody?
She
Like,
uses a mirror in the library to see.
Oh, I see.
That's
what
why
you're
she only
Um,
gets petrified and not killed.
isn't it a helmet of invisibility or something like that?
It's a helmet that made him invisible to her.
To her, okay,
Yeah.
Who get it was all gods.
That's from Hades.
Oh, hell yeah.
From the 80s, right?
Yeah. And then Zeus gave him a super sharp sword.
Yeah.
It seems kind of lame compared to the other shit, honestly.
Yeah, and I've heard like certain.
I mean,
certain
she's
versions
immortal
of
too.
Perseus
So
stories
she is
too.
a mortal. You know, so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, why do you need a special sword? You don't. Like,
Well,
you
that
can
was
use
just for
any
his
sword.
journey entirely. Like this was like his one thing was not to just kill Medusa. He was at war with Poseidon. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And this
I
was
feel
like
that's the
all
thing.
part of it was, yeah, his end goal was Poseidon's nonsense because he's all pissed off with Zeus, and in certain renditions of it, I'm pretty sure Perseus is like a demigod from Zeus.
Kind of like Hercules or something.
Yeah, like half, you know.
Yeah, Perseus is Zeus's son.
Yeah,
Yeah, Zeus was getting around.
yeah, he definitely did that.
Swan
Turning
children.
into like light and shit.
Turning into animals and stuff.
Yeah, animals. He turned into a light beam in order to get to the tower once.
So, so we're at where Perseus was equipped with all these.
So Perseus
gifts
is
and-
equipped. He goes off on his quest to kill Medusa. He does it, clearly. And then when she dies, he cuts off her hair and some of her snakes. Poor little guys.
Mm.
And then her kids spring forth from her body. And they're just like fully formed and like ready to
Ta-da!
go.
Here we are.
And they just like come out and leave. And it's Creosaura, who's like a battle giant, and Pegasus.
Really?
Yeah. So that's where Pegasus comes from.
From
Medusa's.
Medusa and Poseidon.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So technically, wouldn't
horse.
Pegasus only be a demigod because she was immortal?
You're saying Pegasus is a demigod? Well, I guess in a sense, yeah. Poseidon's the father,
Yeah.
and then Medusa's a fucking immortal. Doesn't that sounds pretty
She's
demigod?
she's mortal.
Oh, she's mortal.
Yeah.
because she totally.
Yeah.
That-
She was the only of her sisters that was mortal.
And a giant.
And a giant. Like a battle giant. I don't know anything else about them.
It's mythology for you. It's like inside the. Well, here's something. When Medusa got turned into this when you got cursed into this monstrosity,
Mhm.
did she become like a giant-sized, like dragon-sized beast?
No, she was just like a person.
Because Perseus was able to collect her head. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then,
She was just like human.
but she was carrying a giant.
Yeah, a giant baby and a fucking fully
And a
sized horse with
Yeah.
wings.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's totally insane.
And imagine if she actually gave birth to them, like if they came to full term, and
Yeah, like
how powerful that shit would
what?
be.
I think she was gonna die either way.
Yeah, it's a horse.
Yeah, you don't make it through that.
It's a horse, of course.
Of course.
So Perseus actually takes her head and goes around and turns a bunch of things to stone and kind of like finishes up his mission and whatnot. And then he goes to Ethiopia and he lays her severed head on the beach where her blood gets into the water and gets on some seaweed, which then becomes red coral.
That's where red coral comes from.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then he uses her head to save Princess Andromeda, and he marries her. And then he actually gives her head to Athena, who puts it on her shield, which is now like super famous, and that's like the picture of Athena's shield, which I think it's so fucked up that Athena gets the head.
After
all,
cursing
yeah.
Medusa, and then, yeah.
After everything she did, like.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on, yeah, fucking, it's kind of interesting that it's like you were saying that the symbol Medusa on the shield is like a symbol for Athena, even though Medusa had her own kind of like there's already symbols for Athena, right? Like isn't the owl one like isn't that something?
I think the owl is, and then there's like a few for Athena for sure. She already had like symbolism, and I don't think Medusa's face. It's like when Athena is depicted after this event, then she always has the shield with Medusa's head on it.
I see.
Well,
She didn't do that shit. Perseus did. That's fucked up. But the gods were fucked up.
They were fucked up, but it's a pretty badass shield to have. So
it is.
Yeah, imagine using that shit in battle.
Yeah.
So these days, Medusa is actually generally seen as a monster. As D&D is an example 100%. And stuff. Yep. But she's also seen as by people using her imagery and symbolism to ward off evil.
Hell yeah.
And I kind of like to think of it as like she couldn't save herself, so now she's there to save other people in need.
I like that.
Like she'd be like the patron saint of women in need if they had saints in Greece.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, just like this ward against evil. It's very cool. And that's, the type of word you'd want is something that would just stop in its tracks, whatever was coming at you, It's very fucking cool.
What makes that shield so badass?
And it's just
definitely
in mythology or wherever, when you come across Medusa, anybody of any background, I think the majority of people would be like, that's a badass, creation.
Yeah.
Thing. The whole idea, is redone so often.
Oh yeah.
In so many different ways. Like, and I think more often than not, if somebody saw the image of Medusa, they'd be like, I know that that's Medusa. I know that's a Gorgon. Right?
Yeah.
I recognize that. I know that this creature, mortal, whatever you want to call it, but everybody knows that she'll turn you to stone, kind of thing.
She's a well recognized thing.
Yeah, which is fucking super cool.
And like you said, I think most commonly, I think she was originally depicted as just like a human woman with snake hair,
right,
and like stone eyes, and just maybe kind of like creepy and monstery looking.
Sure.
But nowadays there are a lot of depictions of her with a snake body well.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that actually it was the movie Clash of the Titans that kind of. Yeah, I don't know if that's the original, start of it. I imagine there were other times where, earlier that it was depicted with the snake body, but that's definitely where I originally know it from. I know that that's, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. That's highlighted too. So
Yeah.
yeah, but then again, it's not the only way to present it. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So the Sirens also had multiple depictions.
Okay.
At first, they were shown as bird women. So they were like birds with large human heads. And then that kind of morphed into them being human bodies with bird legs and like sometimes wings, sometimes not wings. And then they generally had instruments, like they had harps and lyres and things like that,
So
along with
creepy.
their voices.
Bird legs, and wrist. It's human. That's so creepy.
Totally.
It is horrific.
Animorphs.
Just the backward
Animorphs.
leg thing. Ugh.
I don't know because that was a split second thing. It's like Animorphs, like
If
they
you
like
pause to them.
right in the middle of the transition there. It's like
Why I feel like with these, it's like if you took an Animorph and just like flipped through it and randomly paused, and they're like, "This is how we're drawing Sirens right now."
There you go. Yeah. Needs more bird.
Yeah.
He needs more bird.
And then they get a little farther and they're like, less bird.
Yeah.
Less bird right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, all bird? Just female face?
Yeah. Size and scale of a sparrow with the head of a
Yeah.
human.
When sometimes
Yeah,
they
that's
don't
not
even
creepy.
have the head of a human, just the face. So it's like
Oh.
literally a bird with just a human face.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Creepy. They're creepy.
It's real creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
And
why
then,
you'd be drawn to
to
that.
add on to that, like, knowing that they're basically just sing and lure you to your doom.
Yeah, just a watery shipwreck death, and you just laugh at it. Mm-hmm.
This is the same creature that in the Odyssey when they're sailing.
Yes.
Yep.
Is it
Odysseus.
Odysseus. Yeah.
He's tied to the mast so that he can hear the song, and the rest of the crew is supposed to plug their ears.
With wax.
Yeah.
Beeswax.
Beeswax.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they're all right, but he wanted to hear the song, so they tie him up, and he almost goes mad. But
He like begs and begs to be able to get let loose to go to them, and they just keep tying him tighter and
Because
tighter.
like he gave them the orders,
Mhm.
like sail past this place, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna hear it.
I think he's the only one to ever hear the song and
Nope.
went through it. No?
Uh-uh.
Who else has heard the silent song and lived?
I have a few stories. So there's a thing though where if you do sail past the Sirens and you hear them and you live, they die.
All of them, or just the ones that are singing to you.
So they're written about in a lot of different ways, and generally there's like 2 to 5 of them, and they're all sisters, and they're always together.
So it's like a coven.
Yeah, kind of, but they're like
Right.
they're always together.
And
so
if one dies, the rest.
they would all die, yeah,
Okay.
because you like passed up their song, all of their songs.
Right. Okay.
Just a weird hive mind.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Bored birds.
Yeah. Shut up. Ugh. So creepy.
So a lot of people think of them as like ocean dwelling and like almost mermaid-esque. Like I just described them as birds, but before I looked into them, I was thinking more mermaid type creatures.
Yeah, whenever
like lived in the ocean.
Someone says the word siren, you do think like island, tropical, palm or coconut tree shit with them like kind of laying out on the rocks like mermaids would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
but
not realistically.
Not creepy half bird things.
Half
Yeah.
Animorphs.
Animorphs,
Yeah.
paused animorphs, and they actually live in meadows. They're like meadow dwelling creatures, and their father was the river god.
Well, what?
That's kind of cool to think about, like them like playing their instruments and hanging out in the meadows and just being this coven of sisters that are just like
Chilling.
Chilling and killing.
Chilling and killing. But how do
Hanging
you drive people into their rocky shipwreck death if you're in a meadow?
Or you go hang out in the ocean and kill people when you want.
And then you go back to the meadow.
back and hang out in the meadow with Persephone.
And you just kind of just have some weird sixth sense that a ship's coming by.
I don't think it was
All right, guys, to the rocks.
to the rock.
To the rocks now.
Killing to do.
Maybe
Yeah.
they had like a rotating watchman look out.
Sentry
They're always
sirens.
together.
Sentry sirens. They have watchtowers.
Well, yeah.
They're birds. Maybe they just every couple hours like flittered to the coast.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's logical. More logical than
Thanks.
the other bullshit.
Yeah.
So there's actually some stories that say that when Hades stole Persephone, Demeter gave them wings either to help them find Persephone or because she was cursing them because they did not stop Hades from taking her.
So originally the Sirens had this basically duty to protect Persephone.
No.
I
Demeter's
misunderstood.
just crazy.
Okay.
No, they were like buddies with Persephone, and they all like hung out because they're all like hang out in the meadows. You know, Persephone's the spring goddess.
Right.
She'll
But they
hang
didn't
out.
have any like.
No,
duty to
no, they weren't like
just-
bound to her or anything. They were just
Okay.
like friends. And then they were like there when Hades took Persephone, and they
Right.
didn't stop it. And so, like some of the stories, either Demeter gave them wings to help her find her daughter,
Find my baby,
or she gave them wings as like a curse for like
not
now you're
stopping
even
it.
more weird, fucked up bird people. I guess
If you're already gonna be a fucked up bird person, you may as well get to fly.
exactly. I think
I like to think of it the positive, like to help search
help.
for
I
them
like that
because,
one
like,
better
they're
too.
already kind of seen as these like monsters, so I kind of like the idea of Demeter being like, all right, we're gonna give you another purpose besides murder and music.
That's true. I like that too.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, totally. So it was actually the Romans who ended up linking them with the sea so much. He changed their father from Achelous, who was the river god, to Phorcys, which is a primordial ocean god.
Who changed
Who
that? The Romans?
the Romans.
Okay.
And as you can remember, that is also the father of Medusa,
Something.
Phorcys. Poseidon's the rapist of Medusa.
Oh, that's right.
So
I know
yeah.
what's going on.
So their mother was probably one of the 9 muses, and they would like hang out with the muses and do like Hera would convince them to enter singing competitions. And it said that when when the sirens would lose, the muses would pluck out all their feathers and make crowns for themselves.
All right.
But they wouldn't die someone hearing them, because
Yeah,
one
it
thing
wasn't
is
the
that-
shipwreck thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm saying because like if somebody heard the music and didn't. get
Yeah,
murdered
no,
by
it
the-
wasn't.
the-
It wasn't that thing.
Okay.
It was
All right. This was like.
because there
Because
were
they
like
weren't
other
human,
gods and yeah,
Okay.
They got a pass. 'Cause
They're-
gods can do whatever they want.
and they're immortal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so yeah, they'd be like, haha, like, here's our trophy for singing better than you.
Dicks.
Yeah, pretty much. There's one version where at one point they lose the competition and they're so upset that they get their feathers plucked and that they lost that they turn white and fall into the sea because they lived at like the edge of a large cliff. So they fall into the sea and die. And this happens at Aptera, which means featherless. And then they become islands, which are now called Suda, but at the time they were called Lucae, which means the white ones.
So these islands are still out, around Greece.
Mhm.
Okay, that's where they kind of have their background story of how they were found. Were their feathers supposed to be particularly like beautiful or something, or because like?
I don't know. I'd be pretty upset if I lost my feathers.
Well,
They were just being dicks.
Honestly,
Well, I'm
they're just
thinking,
pretty
like,
fucking dramatic.
more why they would use them to make crowns, kind of like.
I think a show off. It's just more like a look what I took
beat
from you.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
So
Just a dominance thing.
in
It's
the
not like the Golden Fleece or something like that.
Oh,
but, yeah, okay.
So in the Argonautica, which is a Greek epic poem from the 3rd century BC, the Hellenic period of Greece, and it's actually the only remaining epic poem from that period of Greece, written by Apollonius Rhodius. I think that is the best name. I love it. So this poem says that the main character has a prophecy that he will need Orpheus, a legendary musician, poet, and prophet, on his epic journey.
A bard.
A bard, totally. So they're sailing, and then Orpheus suddenly hears the sirens in the distance, and this bard knows just what to do. And he starts playing his music louder than they're singing, and he drowns it out for his crew so that they can pass without hearing.
Oh yeah, bardic inspiration.
Yeah.
Nice.
Except for this one guy who has like exceptionally good hearing, and he ends up jumping ship.
Oh, this asshole.
And he tries to go for the sirens, but Athena's there because like she's involved in their mission somehow, and so she saves that guy. So he hears the siren songs, but they still sail past.
So the sirens die.
They would have died then too, yeah. There's so many instances where they die. Like, it's weird
that's
how
why they got a smaller challenge rating than other
probably
monsters in the monster manual.
Yeah. They just sounds like they do. They just lose and die.
yeah.
Like they did a bunch of murdering and then just stopped being good at it.
Music and murder.
Yeah.
Good hobbies.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So the sirens, obviously they sing you to your death, but like why, And in my opinion, I think it's really weird to show them as singing you to your death just for you to like crash your ship or something, Like
So you're
what's
saying,
the point of
yeah,
that?
Sure.
They're
What's
just
the reason
yeah.
They're just sinister.
No,
Maybe.
they're cannibals. They would eat you.
Yeah.
So there's some stories where they sing you to sleep and then they come aboard your ship and like eat you on your ship. And then there's some stories where they like lure you to come into the ocean. But that's weird if they're birds. Why are they in the ocean?
Instead of just flying to the ship and singing, and once they reach the ship and flying from the island,
Well, I like
they'd be asleep and they could eat you.
fly around the mast and sing them to sleep, and then just get on board and eat them.
That's not often how. I feel like that's such a. Like, that doesn't sound like any of the stories I've heard of sirens. I always hear about them like.
In the ocean, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, calling people to them, not.
Oh yeah, going
their
to
prey.
them,
Like,
yeah.
Kind of like luring you in is the way I've always,
Yeah.
And you hear about things, this thing of like siren song and
Yeah.
Motherfuckers calling people sirens. That's not really common these days, but like,
Yeah.
What it draws you in, it's enchanting. It's like
right.
it
Well,
pulls
see,
you to it.
Well, I'm saying that I think it's interesting that there was also this depiction of them like being more of a active poaching kind of hunter as opposed to like this.
Yeah, like boarding the ship and all that. Like that's very.
Exactly.
Well, you got to
Far
think
more
though.
active than passive murder.
It definitely is more active, but you got to think about the depictions of them drawing you in. Is like they're drawing the people off the boat into the water, and these are bird women. So again, like, why would they be in the water?
Ducks are in the water.
Did that look like a duck?
It didn't look like anything I've ever seen. So, but ducks are in the water.
Penguins get in the water. Flamingos get in the water.
Okay.
Seagulls.
Okay.
Cardinals like bird baths.
But have you ever seen a siren attack in calm water.
Not
No,
my
it's
I've seen a
time.
siren.
Not
Crazy
my
stormy.
time.
All right.
The last siren I saw
Like
dropped dead because I sailed past her island. And,
Like movies and stuff, like depictions.
oh,
I don't know the last time I saw a siren even depicted in movies. I'm just trying to think of a movie.
Sinbad.
What? No.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, I don't remember that.
Sinbad, the cartoon with the dog. I feel like it's always written or like talked about, or
I guess
it's
The
like
Simpsons,
stormy.
honestly, is the last time I've seen it depicted, and that's just
It's real factual.
well, I mean, it's just copying off of fucking the Odyssey.
The only depiction I really know is the Odyssey.
Yeah, but
most
it's like
common.
it's rough, stormy sailing seas. You know, like that's why the sirens are an extra added challenge at that point, because it's like already hard sailing.
But it
So what I'm saying is, like, why would these bird people get, because birds don't get in the water when it's that bad. Birds get in like nice water. Like maybe not penguins, but these aren't penguins, okay? They're bird people in Greece.
Are they still depicted as bird people in these stories that you're talking about, though?
they're humanoid.
No, that's what I'm saying. The ones where they are lured into the water, they're depicted as like the Roman version, where they're like more like a mermaid. So it would make more sense in the original Greek versions for them to be these poachers that sang them to sleep and went and like flew on deck, like because they're already at the cliff. So they're at the cliff, see
Start
the boat
singing,
coming, they start singing,
swoop
get
in.
louder.
By
By
the
the
time
time they're here, they're asleep. They just pop down, have their meal, and off they go.
If you have like the wax, then it'd be real easy to get murdered.
well,
Your wax.
yeah.
Beeswax, if you're
Well,
chilling
that was
there,
But how
you have
would
a
you
fire.
know? Like, I imagine that it would be difficult to locate and mark and map these islands where they lived, because who fucking survives that situation?
Yeah.
So it's not like there would be a cartographer to be like, well, here's where we were when we fucking got slaughtered in the night.
Yeah.
Well, who was it then that warned Odysseus? Because everyone is aware of the
Circe.
sirens.
Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, there is still lore. People know about the sirens.
The gods all knew them, yeah.
So do the people.
Yeah, but all the people like avoided them, except for the ones that got killed.
How can you avoid it if you don't know where it's at?
It's dangerous waters. There's marked down as there's. I don't know. Has any of this made sense thus far?
I
As
think
much
it
as
could.
mythology can.
Exactly.
Yeah, they knew where it was. And
I knew it where it was.
Odysseus was a great archer. If they were just flying around being weird bird people.
That's true. If they
Like
were on
Odysseus
this
was-
like big cliff where they saw this, these circling birds, bird people, it'd be like, well, we need to be wary. And I don't know if it states it in the story, but is there anybody who was like, hey, by the way, watch out for singing bird folk? Because there wasn't anybody who was like, hey, there's a giant on this island, or a cyclops on this island, by the way, or
Circe tells them about the sirens. She tells
Okay,
them
so-
to watch out for them, and that's why they have the beeswax, is
I
because she
see.
gives it to them.
Okay.
So they do know where they are, because they're on the map, like marked as this is where the sirens are. But
Isn't
it's
Circe
like,
the witch who
yeah.
kept Odysseus
Yeah.
fell in love with him.
Made him her sex slave.
Sex slave.
Years.
What I'm really trying to say is that the sirens eat people. It's not just pointless murder. It's to feed them.
Well, that's fair.
Well, I just want to say I like the idea better of them having the sailors come to their island and them having like a mass grave corpses that they're singing and playing the music around. And it's like,
So I think it's like, but they live like up a very large cliff. So
well, obviously the
If-
sailors are willing to get up there.
yeah, so
They know,
then
they
that'd
hit
be
the
a
rocks and
hilarious.
die.
That'd be a hilarious scene if they like got them enchanted enough to like dock their boat on these dangerous rocky shores and then just climb up a sheer cliff face to get to the sirens, and then they just get eaten.
I like that. I mean, it's only as ridiculous as having a giant meadow up there.
That's what I'm saying. Now there's a giant meadow on this giant cliff
With like,
with bird people.
Have you guys
You
seen?
can dock the ship in the rocky waters, in the troubled waters too.
No, you can't
This
dock.
is insane.
this is more insane than Medusa giving birth to Pegasus.
Yeah, this is
Okay, but like,
wild.
have you guys seen Greece? Like, there are just like cliffs that go down,
Sure.
and there's like
Yeah.
meadows and stuff at the top,
Okay,
and
okay.
like
Stupid meadow.
that's what. Yeah, that's Greece. That sounds a lot like Greece.
I've been to Greece.
I haven't either, but I've seen photos.
You're a good soccer player.
It's from all the running away from sirens.
Or running to kill Medusa.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning into that, everybody.
I will.
I'm Johnny.
Have a great night.
Thanks for listening. If you guys enjoyed that, tell your friends or give us a follow on social media. We are Tenacious V's podcast pretty much everywhere. You can listen on Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify. And these episodes are brought to you by Nona, Will, and Johnny. And the music is done by Staple Milk. Come back next time for some more historical heroines.